Still not as good as it could be by any stretch, but you're saying that it's gone down.
Yeah, well, Steven Pinker he's one of what are known as the new optimists, which are people who really are making a very strong case that things are better than they've ever been, and they're only getting better. I mean, things can go backwards.
Yeah.
But as an overall trend, they always seem to be just going in one direction. Not the band.
That's a different story.
So one of the things he does in the book is he outlines how violence has declined and all of the different factors that seem to be contributing towards it. And one of the main hypotheses is, I think it's called the Leviathan hypothesis. So he mentions the game theory of violence and why people are violent towards each other. So there's a thing that he calls a Hobbesian dilemma, which is where, for instance, if someone's a threat, you're incentivized to take them out before they take you out, which makes you a threat to them, which incentivizes them to take you out before you take them out. So when you see places where there are very small groups of people that are not governed by something bigger that can de-incentivize this kind of violence, you see a lot of just constant warfare and murder. So particularly communities where they don't trust the police, there's a lot more violence because they don't trust that people are going to sort things out for them, and they don't trust that there's anyone there to protect them from the neighbors. But when you feel like your neighbor is not, there's no risk from your neighbor, then you become less of a threat to your neighbor, and they feel it's a feedback loop. And
basically, just the rise of civilization is all about that, right?
And so this is the rise of civilization. So as small groups become big groups, usually through warfare and domination, then after a while, a certain group will get a monopoly over the violence, and they can then enforce rules like you can't attack your neighbor, because if you attack your neighbor, we'll punish you and it won't be worth it. So then that makes everyone safer, because it means that they're not worried about the neighbors attacking them anymore. So they suddenly can get on rather than fight each other to the death.
Be creative or just find other things to do with their time.
And in The Walking Dead, Negan is kind of that. Even though he is actually the psychopath that is, I mean, basically like a king.
Yeah.
Kings would behave like this. They would chop people's heads off at a whim, and I'm sure many...
Or countries are in expansion phases.
Basically.
Where they go out and...
We were in Papua New Guinea last year, and we didn't go up to the mountains, but in the mountains there's a lot of tribes that have no contact with civilization. And the small tribes, and they go to war with each other all the time.
Wow.
They burn each other's villages down.
You went there?
Yeah, we didn't go up into the mountains. You have to get
dangerous.
a helicopter.
It's like a 3-hour flight from Port Moresby up.
A helicopter?
Up into there's no roads. You can't get up there. You have to take a plane, a small plane.
That's part of the problem, is how isolated.
They're isolated. They're just completely untouched tribes.
It's pretty much the last frontier in terms of humanity. And so these tribes kill each other all the time, and it's just like the world was in history, and it's kind of like it is in The Walking Dead. You get small groups that are always killing each other because they're scared that those groups might kill them. And so Negan, he's dominated a few groups, brought them into his circle, and he's using that to dominate more groups.
Yeah.
So actually, you might think that Rick Grimes is the kind of person who's going to restore civilization by being more ethical, but actually, the evidence would suggest that Negan is more of a civilizer, because he's dominating people and he doesn't want his groups to fight each other, because it's not good for him.
Right.
Because he's basically imposed the feudal system on people.
He wants peace, and he wants to do one grand gesture, which is kill one person from each group he finds. That's the only violence he wants, so that that will be enough to curtail anything else, right? But my question is, what about, like, is it possible to expand society in this world without having to dominate, but more the carrot versus the stick? Like, why don't you come be a part of our community? You'll have all these benefits.
Well, I don't know if there's ever been an example of people who previously lived in a civilized society then going back to the times of kill or be killed. So I don't know if any of the values of being raised in a civilized society would carry over into the kind of world that The Walking Dead is set in. But I mean, I really believe that game theory just rules. So when it becomes more, when it becomes a better strategy to kill to survive, people will start doing that.
Mhm.
I mean,
It
that's
reminds me of that kid. Who was the kid that they had in the trunk that they were umming and ahhing about
Randall.
to kill? Like, Randall hadn't done anything wrong, but they
Yeah.
were like, we probably should kill him because he might kill us.
He might go get his people and bring him back here.
Yeah.
That's what they're afraid of.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a really pessimistic view of humanity on the one hand, but if you go back in history, that's exactly what it was like, and that's the situation people were living in. But at the same time, I think it's an optimistic view, because when you see people who are killing people to survive, people who behave like this, you can kind of see that maybe they can become civilized. If only they lived in a different world, they could be different, which makes me have empathy for a lot of the characters that behave this way.
Mm-hmm. I think that's exactly what Negan thinks he's doing, but the only thing is he's taking advantage of it in a way that a lot of rulers do, where they surround themselves with riches and women and things like that, right?
That's the thing. Like, I think if Negan didn't have all those wives, which is rape and misogynistic,
Yeah.
I think if he didn't have that element to him, then it might be easier to think, actually, Negan's way might be the better way.
Personally, I think he's a psycho, and
He's a psycho, but I think that makes it worse. Like, he gives all these arguments about how it's better under his control,
Right.
he's saving lives. But then
It's
there's
harder
always
to believe him when you see
then there's always like, well, naturally he's a rapist and a sexist pig. So
I just think that
He's a psycho.
psychopaths are made to fill that position. In our society now, there's no room for people like that in charge, even though there still is.
But there's
I just don't-
white collar psychopaths.
You're saying, and I think you might be right, but what keeps coming up with me is, let's say Rick, he wants to be the one to expand society and recreate society. And does he have to do that by forcing smaller groups to succumb? Or could he instead just create a society that is great and that looks good from the outside, that people would realize, hey, I can choose to become a part of this and reap all the benefits, or we can be out here on our own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, I think that will. I don't know. We don't know how affected the people would be from growing up in civilization, but I think any contact with a new group in this kind of world would be really dangerous.
It's always
And
going to be hostile.
it would probably be a conflict-free scene.
I wish Karen was here, because she, that's interesting. In a historical context, you could see that interactions with other groups would be inherently dangerous, but she always thinks that's just the writers trying to make the show more dramatic. But now that you're talking about it in a historical context, it actually makes more sense.
Well, there still has to be consequences. So even if Rick could just run a peaceful civilization, like Morgan was building the cells, there has to be consequences for people who don't abide by certain rules.
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is, do you have to force them to come into your society like Negan does? Or instead, could you say, you can be a part of our society, but if you choose to, then this is the rules that you have to go by. If not, see you later,
I think that you probably have to go through the initial warfare with another group. Not by being the aggressor. I think both sides are probably going to be the aggressor because they're both going to be scared of each other.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's the game
that's going to
theory.
make them more dangerous to each other. It's a feedback loop that
Got it.
it's really deadly. And I really do believe that. So you see a lot of people, the more frightened characters are the more dangerous ones.
Well, I like how Morgan was for a while there, not anymore, but where in all these sort of Zen martial arts masters, where they learn how to be lethal, but they're never the aggressor, and they only use it in self-defense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that comes from being more confident. So, for instance, hypothetically, if I was in a fight to the death if I was just in a fight with someone who was a lot smaller than me,
By the way, Mark's never had a fight in his life.
yeah, and I don't think there is anyone that's a lot smaller than me. But if I was, I don't think I'd be anywhere near as violent as if I was in a fight with someone who was bigger than me, because I wouldn't have to use that kind of violence to protect myself. If you
just want to subdue them.
if you could subdue someone, then you wouldn't have to be violent. But if someone was
seduce.
Well, that's yeah.
With those pretty eyes.
Well, that's why Jesus is so confident, because he can just seduce them.
Yeah.
But if you find someone who's equal or probably stronger than you, you're gonna do everything it takes to not lose that fight, which might mean you're gonna be really ruthless.
Yeah.
I just can't understand why Negan didn't kill Rick right off the bat. Like,
Yeah.
That kind of don't make sense to me, because I think if
Was that a pun right off the bat?
right off the bat,
I could see it. Maybe you know this guy's the leader, and he's got control over everybody, right?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So if you get rid of him, it might just create chaos. I don't know. I mean, I could see your point too, but
Like in the history of England, there was a lot of kings. There was 7 kingdoms. Oh well, historians don't think this anymore, but for a while it was very popular to say there were 7 kingdoms, and these kingdoms, you would have kings that rule entire areas and they dominate other kings, and they have sub-kings, and I think that's the kind of structure that you would get where leaders would be dominated and used to dominate a smaller population.
Kind of Game of Thronesy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the natural way that civilizations organize
Lords and
themselves.
vassals.
they say that all of our like aristocracies and all our lords and gentlemen, their ancestors were knights, and they were just better at violence than.
Well, they weren't
everybody
knights;
else.
they were lords.
But they came from being like just better at violence in
basically,
general.
yeah. I think it's just gangsters that became legitimate because they became
through
the most
force.
powerful.
Yeah, because they had good organizational skills and leadership skills.
But then, if you look at, say, Rome, they overthrew their monarchy and then installed democracy for quite a while, and that was stable for quite a while. So they found another way, but it took a while for them to become powerful enough to do that, I think.
Yeah, that's what we're watching. We're watching society has been just on The Walking Dead regressed back to like pre-feudal times and going through these growing pains. And I think it's pretty interesting, actually, when you put it that way. And some stuff in the comic book that's happened since then has gone along with what you're saying right now. I don't want to say too much, but it's progressed that way.
Ignoring the unrealistic things of just zombies running about, I think, and ignoring the little details, which I think is one of the weakest points in the show's writing, because they seem to just gloss over things that we should really know more about. Ignoring the small details, overall, I think that the show is actually really realistic in how it's depicting a civilization that's broken down, because it seems to be following exactly what
that's awesome
has happened in the past.
You can publish this email on your Facebook page for anyone who wants to.
Yeah, to read the whole
it.
thing. But I think you did a good job of summarizing it.
The audiobook is 30 hours long, and we're only 10 hours in.
Yeah.
And we actually signed up to Audible after hearing about it on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's a long audiobook.
So
Steven
you're listening to it now?
I would recommend reading it, actually, because it's so complicated that it's good to be able to go back and...
If anyone's feeling like really depressed about the violence in the media and how the way, like, people are like, oh, the world's going to crap. I mean, you know, there are in many ways in which it is, like the plastic and global warming and things like that. But in terms of violence and how violent we are to each other, reading this book, it sheds a little bit of hope and light.
That's great.
And that we're actually a lot nicer to each other. In the medieval days, we used to boil cats for fun. Like, that was entertainment. We didn't have TV, so we boiled cats. And
now I just do that for food.
Yeah, it's not fun, though.
we don't eat cats.
Okay, now it's a couple days later, and I'm going to talk a little bit about Black Panther, and I've got my special co-host with me. Can you introduce yourself?
My name is Nico.
My name is Nico.
And my middle name is Quo. And my last name is Kabasi.
And what is your age?
I'm 6 years old.
When are you going to be 7?
July 21st.
Are you smart?
Yeah, super duper smart. I can read congratulations. And I know how to spell creative.
Congratulations. How do you spell creative?
CREATEVE.
That's almost right.
Is that right?
IVE.
Oh.
Not EVE.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, you want to try again?
I knew that. But
spell it again.
CREATEVE. T I V. No, yeah, E.
Good job. Okay, let's talk about Black Panther. So we went and saw the movie the other night, right?
Yes.
And what did you think of the movie?
I thought it was good.
You liked it a lot?
Yeah.
What do you remember the most about it? Because it was a couple of nights ago that we saw it.
I remember when they were fighting on the cars and the big battle at the end, most of all.
Oh, yeah. And what was your favorite part?
The big battle at the end.
What do you remember about that? What did you like about it? I thought it was really cool, too, when the two Black Panthers
fought down in where
like the subway.
Yeah, where all those trains were.
And did you think that the good guy might lose?
No. Well, yeah, not all movies. Well, yeah.
It was a little scary. Who's your favorite character?
Black Panther.
Yeah, the main guy.
Yeah.
What kind of a guy do you think he is? How would you describe him?
He's like a king.
Mm-hmm. Is he smart?
Yeah.
Is he goofy?
Nope.
Is he serious?
Yeah, I think.
Is he strong?
Yeah. No, well, not. Well, so first he's not stronger than the other Black Panther, but then he gets stronger.
Yeah, because he fell in the river, huh?
Yeah.
And you think he's going to die?
No. No.
I did. Actually, I guess not, huh? You know the main character probably won't die, huh?
Yeah.
So it sounds like you would recommend that other people go see this movie?
Yeah.
Do you think it might be a little bit too scary or violent for younger kids?
Maybe. Well, also back when you said the main character doesn't really die, well, in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah, that's true. So sometimes they do, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but do you think that like all other 6-year-olds, like your friend Matthew, should watch it, or maybe some kids?
No,
it might
he's
be
7.
Oh, right. But it might be a little bit too much for some kids.
Yeah, it might be too much.
If you don't like really like big fights and stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's rated PG-13.
Yeah.
That means that it might be for a little bit older. All right. Is there anything else you want to say about the movie or anything? Or about what you remember about it or anything like that?
I just liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. What do you want to see next? Did you know there's another Avengers movie coming out pretty soon?
Cool.
You gonna watch it?
Yeah.
It has Captain America, Hulk, Hawkeye,
does it have
Thor, Spider-Man, and the Guardians of the Galaxy all in the same movie.
Oh, cool.
We're gonna have to go see that, huh?
What if it has Captain Underpants?
Then it would be the most awesomest movie ever, right?
Yeah.
That'd be amazing.
What if it had The Walking Dead too?
Yeah, they should just put everything in it, huh?
What if they put every single movie on Earth
all together in one thing?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on and telling me what you thought about Black Panther. I appreciate it. And I know other people last time you came on said they liked hearing you, so I think they're going to like hearing you this time too.
Okay.
Bye-bye. All right. Nico's gone to bed. Now it's just me. I've seen Black Panther a couple of times, and I really, really liked it. The first time I saw it, I liked it, but not as much as I do now that I've seen it twice. I think I really started getting into the subtleties of the story the second time. So if you haven't seen this yet, then you shouldn't listen to the rest of this segment because I'm going to say a lot of spoilery stuff. But before doing that, I just want to say I really liked it. I recommend that people see it, especially if you already like Marvel movies. This is a great Marvel movie. Or if you want to see a Marvel movie or a big budget movie that's told from the Black experience point of view, that is what this is. And if you've seen it, you know what I mean. So don't listen to me if you don't want to be spoiled. Just skip to the end and then go watch the movie and then come back and listen. The first thing I noticed about this movie that I think is really cool is there's a whole bunch of prominent Black actors that are in it. And I'm going to go down the list of the ones that I mean, I've seen most of these guys in other things and really like them a lot. Chadwick Boseman plays the Black Panther / T'Challa. He's really good. If you saw Captain America Civil War, then you saw him premiering as the Black Panther, and he continues on with this character. He's really likable as this character. He's got this kind of Karate Kid vibe. He's heroic and kind of quiet and humble, and he can be a little awkward and even a little, like, I don't know, kind of goofy sometimes. I guess, when he's afraid to look at his girlfriend, he's so in love with her, but he's kind of shy. I guess I wouldn't say goofy, but just kind of shy and almost innocent. And when he's talking to his father in this kind of netherworld, and he's like, I don't know if I can make it without you. He's just he's just starting out. And so I thought it was cool that you could identify with him even though he's a king. It's like, how do you make a story about a king that is relatable? But he's just starting out on this new venture, and he's unsure of himself. And so I think we can all identify with that. And Chadwick Boseman plays it great. Also, a story about idolizing your father and then realizing he isn't so perfect is relatable to a lot of us too, and that we have to kind of do better than what our fathers did for us. I'm gonna hate when Nico gets to that point, but I think it's inevitable. Next, Michael B. Jordan. He's Njadaka / Eric Killmonger Stevens. I don't think I pronounced his African name right, so I'm just gonna call him Killmonger. But Michael B. Jordan, he's probably the most, the biggest star in this, and he started out back on Friday Night Lights, where he was really, really good. When Friday Night Lights is just an amazing series, and halfway through, it just totally changed. The coach went to a different school, and Michael B. Jordan was like the football star there. And he's also in Creed, which was a couple of years ago. They did a Rocky sequel that was about Apollo Creed's son, played by Michael B. Jordan. He was really, really good in that. Also in that movie, by the way, just making connections, was Tessa Thompson, who was his girlfriend, and she's now in Westworld, and she's really, really good in that. You should be watching that if you're not watching it, by the way. And she was in Thor recently, so she's really, big on the scene now. But anyways, Michael B. Jordan, he played a great bad guy, and I'll get into it more, but I don't even know if I would call him a straight up bad guy. I mean, he's pretty bad, but we'll get into it. But he was really good. And I'm not sure if it helped that the director of this movie is Ryan Coogler, who also directed Creed. So maybe that's part of why Michael B. Jordan got cast. Who knows? But Ryan Coogler, while we're on the subject, 31-year-old director. He's only had 3 movies. His first was a small movie called Fruitvale Station, about this African-American who was shot to death by a police officer at an Oakland subway station. And then I think it covers 24 hours before his death or something. I haven't seen it, but right after that, he got Creed. And then off of that, Black Panther. So just an up and coming. He totally has this. I mean, can you even call him up and coming if he's directed a Marvel movie? He's pretty much made it. But he's an auteur. He has that auteur vibe. And all of his movies, I think you could say to one degree or another, are about the Black experience. So he was the perfect person to direct this. I kind of cringe being a white dude talking about the Black experience, but I really don't think that it would serve Black Panther, the movie, very well not to talk about that, because I just think it's really infused with that. So I'm going to get into that a little bit more later, and I'd love to hear any of your feedback. But continuing on with the actors. Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia, who's Black Panther's girlfriend. She's beautiful and strong and fierce, and has a lot of subtlety to her acting, and I think she played this part really well. The only thing I've ever seen her in, I think she was in 12 Years a Slave, but I've seen her in Force Awakens. We've all seen her in that as Maz Kanata, and she's not at all recognizable in that role, but that's the other big thing that she's been in. Next, we have Danai Gurira. What was she in? Just kidding. She's Michonne, and she's Okoye in Black Panther, and Okoye is leader of this special forces group that are like the king's bodyguards, and she's fucking fantastic in this. She's so good, and you can see why they picked her for this, because Okoye, it feels similar to Michonne to me. She's just badass, very strong in her ideals. She can get angry and annoyed sometimes, and rightfully so. And she just looks great. She's got such stature and fighting ability, and she's the kind of person that you want by your side. Like, of anybody in the movie, she's the one that if you were king, you would want by your side. She's such a loyal person, and she's a protector, and just I think she played this movie so well. Not only was she fierce and badass, but there were some really funny moments too, and she kind of chuckled to herself at how nervous Black Panther was around his ex-girlfriend, and she played it really well. It's so good that, she's basically the reason why I feel like it's cool to talk about Black Panther on a Walking Dead podcast, because she's Michonne. And so if you're a Michonne fan, you got to see this movie. You're missing out if you don't see it. Next, there's Daniel Kaluuya as Wakabi. That's Chala's friend and Okoye's lover, and he's head of security for this border tribe, and I really like him too. I just saw him a couple nights ago when I rewatched one of my very favorite episodes of Black Mirror, which is one of my favorite shows. He was in the second episode of that series, which I recommend starting with because the first one's a little perverse, or kind of a lot perverse. Anyways, it's called 15 Million Merits, and he's the main character, him and this other woman, I forgot her name, but she was in Downton Abbey. She was really good too. What is her name? Jessica Finlay, I think. Anyway, he was so good in that. And then, of course, he was in last year's breakout hit horror movie, Get Out, which one of the best movies of the year, and just so good if you haven't seen that. He was awesome in that. There's Letitia Wright, who's Black Panther's sister. People are talking about her in this movie because she kind of steals every scene that she's in. She's badass and kind of snarky and just really fun to watch. And I was like, where have I seen her? I don't know if I've seen her in anything, but I didn't realize it because the characters are pretty different. But she was also in Black Mirror. She was in the latest episode, season 4, episode 6, called Black Museum, where she was really good in that. If you're not watching Black Mirror, especially if you got scared away just from that first episode, I recommend going back and checking out some of the other ones, because they're good, and they're all very different from one another. There's Angela Bassett, who's Black Panther's mother, and she's been in a lot of things. She's had a long career. What I think of with her is American Horror Story Freak Show, where she was the 3-breasted woman, but she's been in a bunch of other stuff. There's Forrest Whitaker, who's this shaman elder statesman guy, and he kind of has a similar quality in every movie he's in. This kind of weird, but he's fun to watch for some reason. He did what stands out for me with him for some reason is maybe 10 years ago he did the Rod Serling part for that year's incarnation of the Twilight Zone. He introduced all the freaky stories. But he's been in The Crying Game, Platoon, Ghost Dog, Rogue Squadron, tons and tons of stuff. Those are the ones that I know and have liked and seen in other things. Of course, we also have Martin Freeman, who's, The Hobbit and the UK version of The Office, and Fargo. But I wasn't sure what to make of his character in this. He was just kind of there, and he seemed like the white guy for people to grimace at, and but he was a hero and kind of annoying sometimes. But to me, to be honest, he seemed kind of like the token white guy, which feels kind of like a nice reversal, because often in movies you have your token black person. So now here we have Martin Freeman as the token white guy. We also had Andy Serkis, who played Ulysses Claw, and I thought he was a good villain, and he looked really intimidating. And he's, of course, known, maybe you don't know this, but he is famous for his motion capture work. He played Gollum in Lord of the Rings. He also did King Kong. He played Caesar in Planet of the Apes, which is, I think, Gollum's my favorite role of his, but Caesar's pretty awesome too. And then he played Commander Snoke in Star Wars. So those are the most of the characters and actors. my favorite thing about the movie is that it was about, you think it's about this guy Claw, who he's actually a Marvel villain going back a long time, so I was a little shocked that they killed him off because he's been in the comics a lot. But whatever. Halfway through, he's dead, and you realize that really what the story is about Killmonger, who's Black Panther's cousin, I think, and their two differing viewpoints of what should be done with this wealth of power and technology that Wakanda has had and has been hiding away this whole time. And Killmonger thinks that we should be arming, he doesn't say this directly, but our kind of people, black people all around the world who have been oppressed and have not had the tools to rise up. And that, in some senses is kind of like, fuck yeah, if you're that kind of a person, you might think, do it, man, just get back at everyone who has oppressed you this whole time. And that's kind of what Black Panther's friend, the leader of that border guard, W'Kabi, he's inspired by that. You can tell. In fact, he fights against his own people when they're split. And then Black Panther's side of things is that he doesn't want to be the judge, jury, and executioner of everybody. So his view is not to meet violence with violence, but to kind of rise above it. Well, actually, their view has been to hide away from it this whole time, which is not all that inspiring. And not take in any refugees, not give any foreign aid, just keep all your wealth to yourself, and not try to help the rest of the world, but not be aggressive towards it either. And so by the end of the movie, he comes around to his girlfriend's point of view, which she had said early on in the movie what they should do is what they ended up doing, which is to allow refugees in to help them and to give foreign aid and exchange technology with the rest of the world. So that, I feel like, is the inspiring message of this movie. Don't meet the world aggressively, even if they've been aggressive towards you, but just show them your strength. And I don't know, is that a fanciful notion? This is the kind of thing that comes up a lot in Walking Dead. This is one of the reasons why I love this movie, because I love that message, but it doesn't always work out that way. I mean, it kind of is interesting to me that a lot of Hollywood movies have this message of rising above, but really the movies are all about fighting, and that's what we go to see. Like Karate Kid, one of my favorite movies ever. Spoilers, but at the end of that movie, he fucking plants a kick right in Johnny's nose, and it's so satisfying. And Mr. Miyagi has this big smile on his face, like, you did good, son. And we're supposed to come away that somehow Daniel rose above, but really what he did was he kicked the guy's ass. He trained and beat the hell out of him. So, it's complicated, but I do like this message that at the end they decided to help people. And we don't necessarily want to see a movie about that. There's got to be conflict for it to be interesting, but the message of peaceful help versus aggression is pretty cool. But on the other hand, I also like that it's Killmonger and W'Kabi, you can kind of understand why they would feel the way they do. And I'm sure there's plenty of other people. I mean, W'Kabi's whole army seems to be on his side too until the end of the movie. You can understand why they would want to rise up and fight back. I mean, I also thought about how the Black Panther character, well, he gets his name from this social movement, this Black Panther Party of the 60s and 70s, who were, I think, based mostly here in the Bay Area where I am, and they were all about righting injustices among minorities and monitoring the behavior of the police department, challenging police brutality. They were armed, and there was violence and there was conflict with the government. The government saw them as a threat, but they, at least from one perspective, had noble aims to right injustices, and maybe not all the members handled it the right way. I don't know the details, but I know it was, there was, it's not black and white. It's no pun intended. So anyway, just the fact that that's where the name comes from. And then at the end, the message is to show strength in helpful, peaceful ways. I don't know. I could imagine some people watching this and thinking, no, that's bullshit. So I don't know. I like the message. I noticed there's a lot of prominent black people praising the movie. Like Michelle Obama tweeted, "Congrats to the entire Black Panther team. Because of you, young people will finally see superheroes that look like them on the big screen. I love this movie, and I know it will inspire people of all backgrounds to dig deep and find the courage to be heroes of their own stories." So another thing I love about this is that, you know, as a white guy growing up, I don't think I ever realized, hey, isn't it strange that most movies there's a main character who's like me and it's all about his problems and, you know, how he overcomes them. But if you're not a white guy, then you probably notice, like if you're a woman, you notice, wow, most movies aren't really from the woman's perspective. And if there are women in it, they're the white guys, they're the guy's girlfriend, or they somehow serve to advance his story, or they're the sex object, you know? And so that's why things like Orange is the New Black comes along, and it's like, oh yeah, these are fully realized women with their own troubles and their own personalities and desires. And that seems so fresh and new. And I think Black Panther, I mean, of course there are examples of these kinds of things peppered throughout entertainment history, but it's just, it's the exception rather than the rule. And here's just a big stake in the ground, big budget movie, Marvel movie, told, I mean, it's all like African aesthetic, cultural, like dancing, the way things look, like Wakanda is, it looks like futuristic Africa. There's the ceremony, African ceremonies, and also just the story itself, what I've been talking about, you know, how to handle oppression, how to deal with oppression, all this stuff is more relevant to the Black experience. There's stuff that we can all relate to for sure, but I also just think it's cool that, hey, if you're Black, then maybe you feel like this movie is something finally for you. And if you are Black, write in. Like I said, I feel kind of weird talking about this. And so I totally invite your feedback, and I promise if anybody writes in about this, I'd love to read it and you know, respond to it. What else? Powers. I don't really have, I'm not clear on what the Black Panther's powers are, but I think it's kind of cool that they didn't dwell on that too much, because a lot of superhero movies are about how the hero reacts to his powers. And he's already had that, his powers, for a while, and we don't need to see that. We've seen it over and over again. He seems really fast and strong, and they didn't even, I guess they kind of in the background said that this big vibranium meteor hit Wakanda and infused all the like foliage and flora with its magic, and so that's why I think why these herbs can give him these powers, because of the vibranium. But I don't know if that was said directly, but it was interesting to me that, well, if they have these herbs, why don't they just give them to everybody? Maybe because he's royalty, and so that's why it's reserved for him. I don't know. But it was also kind of convenient that they also had this like anti-herb they could give him, so he would be weak for these challenges. Works for the plot, whatever. His suit, how it absorbs all this energy and then he can redirect it, I'm pretty sure that's new. I don't think that was in the comic at all, in the Black Panther comics. And it was pretty cool, but it also made me feel like he was too invulnerable. You know, he's bulletproof. I don't think he's bulletproof in the comics. And so then I didn't fear for him as much. So that part of it I kind of didn't like. And you want to feel like there's a chance that they can be harmed. Although, who am I kidding? You know that, I mean, even when he got thrown in the river, I was never thinking, oh, that's the end of him. But anyways, so his powers, I guess it doesn't, you know, really matter. What really matters is that he's a badass and he's taking care of stuff. And then just a couple of notes. So on vibranium, that metal is commonly used in Marvel Comics. There's two prominent metals that don't actually exist in the real world: vibranium and adamantium. Vibranium has these interesting properties, like that it absorbs vibrations, and I think it's actually the second strongest metal, though. Adamantium is the strongest metal, and that's what Wolverine's claws and skeleton is made of. And somehow Captain America's shield is made from a combination of vibranium and adamantium, so it has some qualities of vibranium absorption, but it also is one of the strongest objects in the Marvel universe, if anybody cares about that. I don't know, I feel like I've talked about this enough. I really enjoyed the movie. It felt like, it's another Marvel movie in some senses, but also it was new and fresh in a lot of ways, and not just because it was about the Black experience, like I said, but also it's about this king, and that's a little bit different. So it was beautifully realized. A little long, I would say. But anyways, I hope you guys go see it and let me know what you thought.
Towards replacing